In a world that's been overrun by snowflakes, humanity's last hope is a group of friends with a lot to say.
Hello everyone, my name's Cloudman and I am leading this madhouse today. Would you like to introduce yourself first?
Hi, I'm Jay. You already know who I am, what I do. I basically just do whatever I want. So yeah, that's me.
Hi everyone. Again, you pretty much know who I am. I'm Ptolemy, and I'm on for the ride.
Hello, I am Fear the Fox, and this is my house.
Emerging from the darkness is Dark Matter himself, ready to entertain you again with his presence.
Yo.
Okay, that's as basic as you could probably get. The first topic I'd like to talk about is road tax laws, positives and the negative side of it. Would anyone like to give their...
I don't have a vehicle, so I don't have anything to say about it.
I don't own a car.
It ain't worth the money you pay.
Yeah, that's a good way of actually saying it. But myself, basically, road tax is money that you give the government if you own a car or any kind of motor vehicle, whether it's literally just a trailer on wheels with an engine. It needs to go through a road tax, and that road tax is, quote unquote, supposed to pay to recondition the roads after they can subside, so potholes and stuff like that. And the reason why I want to bring it up is because just at the bottom of the hill from where I live, they've been doing roadworks, and all they have done is this: they've made 2 speed bumps, and that is it.
Brilliant.
It's not like we have enough of those in the country already, but they've made 2 speed bumps at the bottom of the hill. But the positive side of it is, I guess, in this case, the speed bumps help stop speeders, because if they hit their suspension on that, it's just going to bugger everything up. But the problematic thing with building more speed bumps is it's just going to become a suspension test every time you go out to go for a drive.
And I assume you've seen there's a few speed bumps around where we live where it's not one solid mass across the road. It's literally 2 lumps, one on either side of the road, and that's actually probably a bit more dangerous than the ones that go straight across the road.
Well, it's cheaper, isn't it, if you only got to put 2 little humps?
No, it's actually designed so as larger vehicles can go over it without hindrance. They're designed specifically for the boy racers in the little cars. If you're driving a bus or a lorry, then you can actually straddle them and not get affected by them.
You don't go over them. Though, I'm a motorcyclist, and those little...
I'm so sorry.
Those little bumps that you see in the road, it's like the two of them on each side. You can go around them easily. The ones that just solid mass right across the road, yeah, you're gonna hit a wall if you could try to avoid them.
I mean, it's another case of like punishing everybody for the few people who actually break the rules. Punish everybody. Let's have everybody screw their suspensions and need to repair their vehicle.
In pain.
Well, as a non-driver, the only thing I can input really, which is an opinion of somebody I know, which may go into a different topic altogether, is cyclists on the road and why they don't pay road tax. Jay, I take by your pain sound that this is a pained topic for you.
Fuckers should be tied to a cross, burnt and then shot.
Jesus Christ.
You should hang them up with their own fucking brake cables, the arrogant twats.
Yes.
Anyone who drives has a special word for them, even bus drivers. and I bet they would love to just hit them over the head with something. It's called TWAT.
Yes, because they are.
I got a better word for him. It starts with a C.
CUNT.
Yes, but yes, they are a real pain for people I know who are drivers, especially when you're going down a road that's on a constant bend, because you can't overtake them because you don't know if there's going to be a car coming around the corner on the other side of the road. And they are holding up the traffic. And as a lot of drivers would know, going too slow on a motorway or even just on a regular road is just as dangerous as going too fast.
Now you brought up motorway and cyclists. Yeah, we were going to a place called Colford the last week, the week before that last, and we were going
I'm
up.
so sorry.
We were going up an A road, and there was a cyclist on an A road, which, if you don't know what an A road is, it's basically a smaller version of a motorway, but 2 lanes, both sides of a central reservation. That's a dual carriageway, also known as an A road, and there's a cyclist riding up this A road. They're not even allowed on A roads.
This road wouldn't be by chance be connected to Monmouth, would it?
Yes.
I know exactly the road you're on about.
Goes through Monmouth and then it goes through Forest.
Because I've cycled down that road before myself, and I've got given the exact same kind of the same kind of comments from the fellow drivers who I passed by. Yeah. It didn't help for the fact that I was driving on the wrong side of the road, so the cars were literally coming straight towards me.
Genius.
I do have a serious note to add to this conversation, mind, which is, in my opinion, and a lot of bicycle riders are going to hate me for saying this, but in my opinion, if we as drivers have to pay road taxes and have MOT and have insurance, then so should they.
Yeah.
You see, this is the weird thing. From a legal perspective, a cyclist is a vehicle. However, they are also a pedestrian. So if you try to go at them for like, well, you don't have a license. I don't need a license. I'm a pedestrian. Okay. But you just ran a red light. I don't need to care about red lights because I don't have a license. I'm not a vehicle.
They do.
Well, I mean, legally speaking, there is nothing you can do about a cyclist who runs a red light because they're a pedestrian and pedestrians don't need to care. So, I mean, if they want to be fined, then they can happily give their details to the police officer that pulls them over and says, I caught you, what's your name? But if they decide to say, I don't want to give my name, there's nothing the policeman can do because they're a pedestrian. They haven't broken any law. It's stupid. It's weird. It's a stupid loophole where they've been considered legally as both a pedestrian and a vehicle at the same time. So they can pick and choose.
Yeah.
All I know is in Amsterdam, the cycling capital of the world, they are a law unto themselves. When I was on holiday in Amsterdam, an antique shop owner literally described them as the mafia of Amsterdam. And somebody who I was on holiday with, who is a cyclist himself, because he doesn't drive, he got knocked down by one of the cyclists into the path of an oncoming bus. And they didn't stop and apologise for knocking him over. Well, knocking him over, they nearly got him killed. And yeah, it's a case of in Amsterdam, don't watch out for the cars, watch out for the cyclists, because they will mow you down.
They're taking over.
If that was the case, right? If bikes were if regular push bikes were given like MOT and well, I don't know. I don't own a car myself. As I said, would this mean, right? They would have to be given like specific headlights and license plates.
They've got to have
Flashing lights.
Night lights anyway.
If they have a license, they'd need a license plate. I'm not sure how you would attach one to a bicycle, but
you don't need one for a bicycle because any moron can buy a bicycle.
But you don't need them for a bicycle because you don't need a license. The question is, what if you did need a license?
Well, if you did need a license, they'd probably do the same as motorbikes. You need to have like a square number plate that goes on the back. But motorcycles don't necessarily actually need to have a number plate, neither does a car, because they can check all the information out on your actual license.
I'm just wondering how much of a health hazard putting a license plate on the back of a bike would be, because riding a push bike requires you to pedal, so I don't know how far back your foot will go.
Ouch.
Or on the back wheel. You know what I mean?
It wouldn't go back that far, but it's still, you get a bit of wind catch on your license plate, and it's hit somebody in the head.
Must have been those chocolate coated sprouts.
Oh, God.
Throwback.
Damn, baby got backdraft.
Yes, Halloween's coming up. I'm going to look forward to that.
Anyway, next topic.
Sure.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on new video games from the last maybe year or two?
Fucking atrocious.
Okay then.
Loot box fueled bullshit. Just a lot of gambling for children that needs to be legislated before we can start seeing decent games again.
Yeah, that's true. They've even done that to Devil May Cry 5.
Ugh.
I've sort of kept up with this year's gaming right via Zero Punctuation, the YouTube channel, but it's it being about a critic and talking about gaming, right? It only gives me so much of an idea about what the game is all about and how the game is and which direction the gaming society is going.
In my opinion, the gaming society is going down, and it's not coming back up for a while.
We've had our golden age. The golden age was everything from the 80s to the sort of thousands and a little bit beyond. We had some really great titles. But then the larger companies sort of started to realize there's a lot of money to be made if you don't sell games. If you sell concepts of games that you can expand upon infinitely. So when the MMO community sort of took off, you could sell a service rather than a game. It's not really a game, it's just a world and people populate it and they'll pay you regularly. And now every game is using that business model and it doesn't work. Then, of course, the free-to-play market where the game itself is free. It doesn't cost you anything to play it. But if you want to go anywhere in the game, if you want to do anything in the game, you're going to need to pay because everything is designed to be irritating, to take too long or just waste your time.
Pay to win.
Pay to win, yeah.
It becomes a pay to play. I mean, it gets to the point where it's not just winning that matters. It's like even to play the game in the first place, you kind of need to pay money. So you're pay to play. It doesn't, because that as a model doesn't work. It worked in the market of sort of phone games, that kind of thing. Because, yeah, okay, they're going to make a lot of money from microtransactions. That's the only place they're going to make money. But then they started popping up in games that are full-priced games. You've already paid for the game, and now you're expected to pay more?
Yeah.
That marketplace can fuck right off.
And at the moment, loot boxes are dominating all the articles in regards to video games. Like the recent one I saw was that a family has had to cancel their Christmas because their child has ended up paying over £3,000 or dollars. I can't remember which country it was, but it was over 3,000 in the game he was playing. And they've had to cancel their family Christmas because their money has gone down the Swanee into loot boxes from this kid's video game.
Well, personally, that kid should have his head kicked in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or better yet, the parents should think about where they keep their credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
Question though, if a game advertises itself as suitable for children, for example, if it's got a PEGI rating of 3 and up,
Yeah.
should you be considering parental controls, or should you just assume that game is perfectly safe for children?
Oh, fuck no.
You know, would you expect a game that has PEGI 3 written on the front of it to bankrupt you because your child, you know, used your credit card and like somehow this game suitable for 3-year-olds bankrupted a family?
In this day and age, dude, you don't assume anything these days.
It's crazy, and it's gone so fast. Like, all of this stuff has emerged really quickly. I mean, it's been brewing for a while, but a lot of parents have been taken by surprise. They honestly had no idea. I mean, as far as they were concerned, they were buying their kids a toy.
Well, I was reading about the game Fortnite. Absolutely atrocious what I read up. Because, of course, there's not a pay to play or pay to win. You can play as much as you want and win as much as you want, but you have to pay to get something called V-Bucks, which is
In-game currency.
Fortnite in-game currency.
Yeah.
And V-Bucks is spent towards weapon skins for the character, pickaxes and stuff like that. Just all stuff that you use. And I was reading up, and this kid had spent £3,600 all on this one game. He burnt through his entire credit history in 1 month.
You know what other services in the world, what other businesses rather in the world also use a bullshit currency? Theme parks. When you go into a theme park and you change your money to duck bucks or whatever, there's some bullshit currency that you change real money into this fun currency so that you don't realize how much you're spending.
Yeah.
And it is manipulative psychological bullshit. We already know when we walk into a theme park, we're going to get ripped off. What we haven't established is when you buy a video game that's marked as suitable for children, you're going to be ripped off.
Yeah.
That should not be true. It should never be true.
With the theme park thing, Folly Farm has their own currency. It's something like 50 pence per token, but it's called Folly coins. 50 pence a token, and it's only like 2 to 3 tokens per ride.
And here's the article I was referring to. A mother from Brighton is actually struggling to put food on the table. She's a single mother because her 8-year-old son, over a 3-week period, spent over £3,000 with add-ons for Minecraft and Roblox.
At 8 years old, I'm sorry, but you have no concept of what £3,000 is.
No.
At 8 years old, you're just 3,000. It's just a number. I don't know what it means. I don't know what it is.
Again, and why are the parents doing something about keeping away the credit cards for their children?
Mostly because the way that these systems work is that you purchase the game using a credit card in the first place, and the game remembers your credit details. So when the child goes and gets an item in the game, and they're like, "Oh, would you like to actually buy this item?" They say, "Well, yes, I'd really like this item. I want this item." They don't know that it's real money. They don't realize that it's coming off the same card that bought the game for them. And the parents have no idea what was happening because, again, they look at the front of the box and they're like, "But this is suitable for children. Why is there so these expensive gambling mechanics going on in the game? Why are they there? I didn't expect that."
And further reading here, she said she'd put in her card details once for him to buy an add-on worth just under £5, which was meant to be a one-off special treat for him. But she said, "I had no idea that my details had been saved on the system."
Yep.
And he was still using my card to buy more online, including one single buy that was worth just 1 penny shy of £200.
Now who is the moron?
And let's be honest, the developers are fully aware. The developers are fully aware that this is going on. They designed it this way. They made it so that, you don't have to put the credit card details in every time. Why? It's a game for children. Why would you not design it so that, it's suitable for children? They know what they're doing, and what they're doing is criminally wrong. They're manipulating children to buy things with their parents' money.
You must also take into account, right, that even though the companies of these games, right, are ripping you off, right, and the games are also naturally just crap, right, but it's still based on the bucks. You must also take into account, right, and hide the amount of players who play these. There are a lot of gaming communities out there, right. I hide with such things as online gaming, right, and hide who can turn a pretty good game, right, for once, right, into a pretty crap one. just looking at it from a different perspective, right? Trying to give some kind of positive aspects to the gaming society today.
Well, even where games, the only things that you can buy in these games, the only purchasable items are cosmetic and have no influence over the game whatsoever. There's no benefit to buying them. They just make your character look different. But they have been marketed in a manipulative way. It's become, it's a psychological attack. So it's a common thing now in schools for children to get bullied for being quote unquote default, because they still use the default skins because their family can't afford to, spend stupid money on microtransactions, or just doesn't want to on principle. Perhaps their parents are a little bit more responsible and say, well, no, you don't need these things. You've already got the game. Enjoy the game. But they're getting bullied in school because they're using default skins. It's psychological manipulation. It is warfare on that level, being waged by multi-billion-dollar companies across the world who are trying to cause this problem and then shrug and go, well, we didn't do it. Yeah, you did. You did do this. This is exactly what you wanted. And they're raking in insane amounts of money from people who have gambling addiction problems. And addiction is something we haven't really touched upon yet, but that is a massive factor in all of this. These things are designed to be addictive. Just one more turn. Oh, if you just had this item, oh, you could get further, but I guess you can't unless you pay. It's manipulation.
Yeah.
Perhaps that should be a topic that you cover when you host the next time, Fox.
Mm-hmm.
But should we move on, Cloudman?
Yeah.
What else you got?
Bring it on.
Bit more of a serious topic.
More serious?
I thought we were being serious.
Yeah, serious on another level. The homeless. And yeah.
Oh dear.
What are your guys' opinions on how the government are handling this topic?
The government are handling it?
Or fail it, or lack of.
This is like a political conversation, so this is a bit dodgy.
Well, it's not so much political, it's just I meant it more in the fact of what do you think of the homeless in general, really?
I mean, I've faced that. I was about a week away from spending a night on the streets and reaching out to all of the organizations that were sort of set up to support people who are facing homelessness. And they're just shrugging and being like, well, you're not homeless yet, so we can't help you. It was disgusting.
I have been homeless for about a week. Lucky for me, right? I have connections, right? That were there to put me up. The thing is, right? With some of these homeless people, right? They don't have specific connections because either their families have kicked them out, right, or they don't have any relatives to go back to. Friend-wise, I don't know. They don't tell. How people like that don't tell me.
It's like I don't know how it feels, and I don't know what it's like because I've always lived somewhere. I've always had a place to stay. But I'm walking down a high street, and you'll just see someone sitting on the floor with a tin next to them that are saying, "Put money in here, please." You feel genuinely horrified.
Yeah,
that they are actually there because.
Not always.
Yeah, but that's pretty much the overall effect they want you to feel. So, yeah, the question is, right? One must ask, right, how they ended up on the street in the first place, and if it turns into another, basic sub story where they repeat the same details over and over, something's up.
Well, I actually, because of what job I do, I actually was on lunch once. Gave a guy a spare sandwich, and he actually threw it back at me and said, "Oh, I want the money, not food."
Yeah.
And I thought, hang on a second, I gave him food. Yeah, I came across another couple when I was actually going to catch a bus, and they were getting fag ends off the floor and trying to make rollies out of it. Well, I had a couple of cigarettes on me, so I offered them both one, and they thanked me. And they asked if I had £1 that they could get a cup of coffee to share. And I said, well, I got to go and get myself some lunch. If I get you both a cup of coffee each, would that be okay? And you know what? They were so pleased to have that cup of coffee that I even bought just like a little egg muffin or something, I think it was, from the little side shop.
Mm.
And you think I gave them a gold bar the way they acted, because I gave them something to eat, a couple of cigarettes, and a hot drink. Those ones are real. The ones who sit there and then say, "Oh, I want money and not food," they're not real. They're there just to scrounge.
The littlest amount of kindness, right, you can give you can give to a homeless one, right? It is more than they could possibly muster. When I used to work over in Burger King, right, when I was living back over in High Wycombe, right, we used to have a lot of leftover food at the end of the shift. So I would gather all the leftover grub, right? I'd add a couple of just for extra into these bags, and just go around the town of High Wycombe and start giving all this stuff to the homeless people, and they were always very grateful for it.
A friend of mine did that once when she was in uni. She had some money troubles when she was in uni, and it ended up once or twice that if friends invited her out and they went into a takeaway, more often than not, they ended up pitching in to help her buy the food she wanted, but she recalls one time that she genuinely couldn't finish the food she had, and she just spotted a homeless person out of the corner of her eye. She just went up to him and said, "Here." And apparently he was a little bit suspicious at first as to why she was giving him food, and she just went, "I genuinely can't finish it, and I don't want it to go to waste, so you have it." It apparently took a little bit of convincing for him to pick it up, but he did take it eventually, and I think they actually sort of became friends in a strange way, because it turned out he was where she was from, so they started up a bit of a friendship. If they ever saw each other, they would just call out and talk. I know there used to be I can't remember his name, but there was famous is the wrong word, but there was a well-known homeless guy in Swansea, and I saw him about when I was down there for university, and I think a few years ago, he passed away. It made the news because he was well known down there and actually well loved by everybody. And I think a lot of people actually gathered some money together to pay for his funeral. So he may have been homeless, but the people who knew and liked him, they actually put money together to be able to pay for his funeral.
That's really nice.
I think the saddest thing of all of this, and I speak as somebody who's stood on that brink. You might think that I would encourage people to give money, to be generous, but that's the worst thing you can do, because even though you're keeping them alive, you are keeping them alive, and you're keeping them on the streets. The only way that anything's going to change is if there is a shitstorm, and the only way there's going to be a shitstorm is if the council has dead bodies on its hands, and people are like, "Why did you do nothing?" And it's not just nothing; they're actually doing the negatives as well, because there was a charity that purchased tents and sleeping bags and all sorts of things for the homeless in a city, and the council came along and took all of the stuff away, because they can't stop them from taking the stuff away, but they were just like, you can't set up on the streets, vagrancy laws, etc., blah blah blah. Vagrancy laws are fucking disgusting.
Yes, but it was also classed as littering because there was rubbish all around the tent. So I remember that because it was in the paper.
So they took the tent? I mean,
they had to clear up because it was they were in front of a well-known building, which is a tourist attraction, and they were making the place look untidy. So they were actually moved on because they were littering as well.
It's like putting spikes outside of a church. You know what? Maybe you should use that fund to buy a new roof and not to fuck over people who have nothing, nowhere to live, nowhere to be, have absolutely zero.
But what you said at the start was that giving them, if they need to have dead bodies in hands to do something, they've had that. There was several people dead in that same city, and all they did was hush it up, and they were like, "Yeah, well, doesn't matter. Less people to have to worry about."
Let's just say we had a really cold winter for 2 years running, and a lot of them disappeared.
Yeah, but they don't care. It's to them, that's just less people to have to pay money out to, and less people clustering up everything.
I feel sorry for the genuine cases, but you do get a lot that aren't genuine.
Yeah.
You get a lot of, for instance, I work in Cardiff. I'm not going to say what I do, but I work in Cardiff. And you see them all over the place, and they've got their tents and everything, and they've got their sleeping bags, and they're walking around during the day like, their world has just crumbled around them. And then all of a sudden at night, you see them jacking up in the corner, and they're evil as fuck to you. And it's all because they've got their fix of some stupid fool who thinks that they're doing right. And they're not. They're being idiots by giving these vagrants money. Yeah, all right. If they're the genuine cases, fine. They're the genuine cases. But most of them aren't. Not these days.
But that's why I won't give them money. If I've got food or I've got the ability to go and get them food, I will. If they don't accept it, they're not real.
And that's the really difficult thing then. A lot of people don't give money to homeless people on the street, and that's mainly because most people genuinely can't tell the difference between the real ones and the ones that are just, scrounging for money, essentially. So basically, in order to avoid the bad ones, they're also avoiding helping the genuine ones.
Well, I do know that some of the ones that I've come across before they've appeared in the mornings. They've put up their thing saying I need money, and then the one day I was standing outside waiting for my lift home from work, and it was 2 o'clock in the morning, and one of the ones who had been outside where I work all day got inside the car and drove off. A homeless person can't afford a car.
It's just a concept that a lot of that possibly a lot of people have not thought about, right? When it comes to bringing homeless people, so that bringing us homeless people a little step further into being off the street. My friend used to do this, and is right. Whenever he had a task, right, that needed doing right, he would find a homeless person to help him do it in exchange for a bit of dosh, right? It's not just giving away money because I feel sorry for you, right? It's giving away money, right, because you have done something for me. You know what I mean? And put them back into some sort of employment. You know what I mean? Even if it's the smallest things.
Because you get used to your situation.
Yeah, but a lot of them don't want employment. That's the problem.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying it's just a concept that some people, that a lot of people have not thought about.
I think that's what Robin Williams used to do. The majority of the films he used to work on, I don't know if this is true, but I think it is a well-documented story, is that all the films he worked on, he would refuse to work on the film if the company didn't employ some of the local homeless where they were working. So those homeless people had were getting some money for the time they were filming there. How true that is, I don't know, but I have read that somewhere.
That's great for reintegrating people into society. And the experiments have been done on homeless people and how long they've been on the streets, and then try to rehabilitate them at different amounts of time. So people who have been on the streets a few days, they can be rehabilitated fairly easily. You give them a house, a job, and some future, some prospects, and they'll go for it. They've only been on the streets a few days, maybe even a couple of weeks. They're fine. They can go back into society. Any longer, and you start to hit problems where you can give them a house, you can give them a job, and they'll just be like, "This isn't for me. I belong on the streets," and they'll just go back to the streets. They can't deal with society anymore because they're so used to the way that things are for them now that they will always go back for it, because begging is just better for them.
It's the same with soldiers. The amount of mental instability that soldiers go through when they retire from, from the armed forces, and they struggle greatly to get back into, into civilian life. And there is a high number of homeless people in the UK that are former soldiers because they have nowhere to go.
I will say one more thing regarding the the drug users, shall we say, the ones that are begging because they need a fix. Depending on the drug of choice, if it is something more serious, like heroin, for example, if you give them a sandwich instead of money, you've killed them, because that drug dependency is so real. Like, that is not just they need it because they think they need it. They need it. If they don't get their fix, they're dead. And again, it goes back to, is that your responsibility to give them money so that they can continue to get their fix, so that they can be alive and you can say, well, I saved their life? Or is it the council's responsibility to set up some kind of drugs rehabilitation program for homeless people, and an everything rehabilitation program for the homeless to sort of try and fix this? Because that's where your money should be going if they were doing a real job.
About the Robin Williams thing, he had a contract written up that every film or event or speak he did, they had to hire a certain number of homeless people, ranging above 20. Otherwise, he would not attend the event.
That's really refreshing. What a great loss.
No, it's still ongoing.
It is still going?
It's still ongoing. After his death, the company, his manager then, still has to hire out certain numbers of homeless people per to his will.
Brilliant. Just brilliant.
Films that he was interested in and films that they deem necessary, 20 homeless people have got to be in them as per his will.
I applaud that, because that is how you make an actual difference.
Yeah.
There's actually a rock band who loved Robbie Williams. They're also got his same contract, and whenever they do events, instead of having backstage staff, they ask the manager of his agent, and they send them backstage staff that are homeless so that they get payments.
God rest his soul. What a legend.
It's called the Robin Williams Riders.
It took a celebrity to figure it out. Well done, council. Well done.
Yeah, it states here, Robin Williams Riders requires that for every single event or film he did, the company hiring him also had to hire a certain number of homeless people and put them to work. The people who took over the namesake per Robin Williams's death and his will still have to hire out 20 plus homeless people for events that they are putting on.
That is amazing.
What an amazing man.
Little ray of sunshine into this otherwise depressing subject.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this has been put forward by a man named Perry Marshall, who is one of the people in charge of the Robin Williams Riders.
Brilliant. Just brilliant.
Who found out about it by hiring him for a speakeasy on depression and mental health issues.
Shall we move on to the next topic so we leave this one on that fantastic note?
Yes, I agree. Right, the next subject is people's memories from their childhoods.
I was a child?
You twat, I was about to say that.
No, you were found under a hedge.
You still are a child, Fox.
Oh, I forgot.
Well, that's a broad one.
I remember one, a really good one. I was riding my BMX around the vast amount of land that we used to have when I was growing up. And my sister decided that it would be a funny idea to throw a stick in the spokes of my BMX while I was going very fast. And I landed face first in a manure heap.
Oh.
That was the funniest thing I've ever seen, with your little legs sticking out of it. And it wasn't a stick, it was a broom handle.
It was wooden, long, and thin.
You should have listened. I told you not to keep going past there.
And they weren't the metal spokes, they were the thick plastic black ones. If they were the metal ones, they'd have bent and given some sort of... No, this was plastic, hard black, stunt plastic spokes. They sort of looked like fan blades.
They acted like fan blades.
So it didn't have any give at all. It was just stop. But I didn't stop. The bike did.
All you heard is...
Hmm.
Although you're lucky, because the other side was a whacking great 5-foot drop into a brook.
Not quite from my childhood, but on a similar note to that one, it concerns my mother, and this was during the drought of the 70s, or back when there was the last big drought, and she
Seriously, are there not any good memories from your childhood, Ptolemy?
There probably are. This one, it just reminded me of this one. But my mother went cycling through a dried out reservoir during the last drought, and her front wheel found a pothole. So wheel went down the pothole. She went flying over the handlebars, did a somersault in the air, and landed teddy bear style on the on the floor of the reservoir. And she thought, "Oh, thank God nobody saw that." But then, in the distance, on the other side of the reservoir, she saw this couple doubled over in laughter, just laughing their backsides off at her.
Some of the memories of my childhood, right, usually stem from things that were either weird or disgusting.
I can imagine that.
This being for the fact that being very quiet, I had to not exactly associate myself with other kids. I had a lot of time on my hands. So this would usually be spent by either sleeping in very cramped and hand cupboards, or this would be like picking off food in like playgrounds and eating them.
Freaking Harry Potter, were you?
No, he's Harry Potter Mark 1.
I used to electrocute myself continuously with a broken boiler ignition system.
You would, Fox.
That doesn't surprise me.
What, on purpose or what?
You really would, Fox.
But then, didn't you crawl behind a fire guard?
I was very young. I can't remember that. They put a fire guard in front of the fire. That's about as close to, parental responsibility.
Didn't he also climb into a fridge?
That was after
Fire and ice.
So my brother actually spotted that I had gone behind the fire guard because parenting, and fished me out. But he couldn't touch my jumper because it was so hot. He was like, "Well, to be honest, if I hadn't have grabbed you out of there, you'd have probably ignited." And then, as you say, at a later date, they couldn't find me anywhere. And my brother came into the kitchen and was just like, "Why are all the shelves out from the fridge?" And opened the fridge door, and there I am. Apparently, and I don't remember this, but apparently they asked me why I went in the fridge, and I told them because I wanted to know if the light went out when you closed the door.
Did you not think of pressing the little button in the corner of the door?
No, Jay, I was very young.
I remember I went into the living room and my other brother was standing behind the living room door and cracked me over the head with a rusty dog food tin and split my skull open.
What?
That explains a lot.
And then a year or so later, the same time, because it was the school break, he hit me on the head with a lump of 6x8 battening and cracked my skull open.
Was this before or after you were repeatedly dropped down the stairs?
No, and that was him as well. I was 6 months old and the little shit pushed me down the stairs and I broke both my legs. But the good thing is, I had like that thing where your legs turn in, and they rectified the situation after that. But I was in traction for like a week or two.
She stood sideways.
Oh God!
I know. I used to crab.
You used to have crabs.
Money.
At 6 or 7 years old was when I started going walkabout. And was living in Chepstow at the time. My parents had gone out, and my brother and sister was over their friends. I was wondering where they were because I was starting to get bored inside the house, so I started looking for them. My search took me down into the main town of Chepstow. All right, and I had quite an adventure. I would say. I checked my local old favorite store, Woolworths, when they used to be around. And searched out every single Thomas the Tank Engine figurine that I did not have, right, and tried paying it all with a piece of snot. That was interesting. Heading out to local bars, trying to see if I could swipe somebody's coke from the table.
So you were just a thief then?
Look, hey, for a 6 to 7 year old, right? And I not knowing the location of his favorite town very well. It was just nice. I used just to see what was right, what was wrong. Going around the bridge area, where the bridge inn used to be, it was one of my favorite spots. That was nice. And,
I didn't pay for this. Let me just search my nose.
He's the Artful Dodger, isn't he? That's what he is.
Yeah.
Can't say to yourself.
Little scamp.
My search was cut short and halt when I had climbed over the barriers that led to the main road. Right, and nearly got run over by a police car. Literally, the police car was like just a few inches away from me. It collapsed in fear and shock.
We got run over by a KA a couple of years ago.
The police took me into the George Inn. I think it's called the George Inn now. I don't quite remember. It's just before you go over the arch into the main town centre.
Police almost run you over, then take you to the pub.
But I nearly got run over by a KA because I tripped over a sleeping policeman.
Yeah.
Oh wait, for our American viewers, a sleeping policeman is a black and yellow speed bump, basically.
Yes, they almost ran me over and did take me into a pub. Yeah, the only it's just to buy me a coke and just to get a couple of details. So yeah, it's basically my first basic interrogation. They were asking me where my parents were, and so to add a bit more adventure into my otherwise fortunate day, I took them on a wild goose chase, but gave them all these weird addresses. So yeah, I got a police escort, right, to yet more adventure before they eventually took me back home, right, and I got a good grounding for about a week by my parents.
About a week,
and so were worried sick about me. I had been gone for about. I've been gone for about 4 or 5 hours. So. So yeah.
From all that, I think you deserve a grounding for about 5 months.
So yeah, that was officially my first walkabout. Ever since then, most of my childhood was spent just walking around, just in different locations,
shuffling his Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
You're the only person I know who can be arrested for being yourself.
Yeah.
That was when I was over in Lydney. I was waiting for a lift to take me over to the venue where we were having our what was it? Our rehearsal, wasn't it, Fox?
I don't remember the circumstances, but I do remember that you were waiting for a lift outside and being you.
While I was waiting for my lift, right, I decided to help myself, right, to a slushy, like a king size slushy, right. I drank that pretty quickly, right. So I had a major sugar rush.
That doesn't mix.
So just to burn off the energy, right, I decided to dance on this policeman's wall.
Mm-hmm.
Right, where there was no policeman around. Unfortunately, two policemen come across the corner, and I nearly fall off my balance. They start asking me questions about why I'm adjusting on the policeman's wall, and since I'm so hyper, everything is like, sir, yes, sir, no, sir.
So
They take me. They take me in, check me over. They notice they noticed like a small bag. I had some crumbs. That had like some crumbs in it, and it right.
Was it ticking?
No, it wasn't. It was from it was from like a rock cake I had earlier on.
Of course it was.
But it was but I was given a blue slip after that, and I'd been found suspicious of drugs. I showed it. I still got it now. I showed this to Fox, and Fox read out the description. Basically, it was just me being myself. We all had a good giggle about it.
Yeah, you got arrested for being you.
I remember, or at least I don't remember. I was told it. I do remember bits, but I hit my older brother in the face with one of my mum's daps. He kept popping up from behind the sofa, so I slapped him in the face, and apparently I slapped him with my slipper and then ran away.
You invented whack-a-mole.
I don't remember much from my own childhood, so I've been told stories.
Me neither, to be honest, but I do know one part of my childhood. I think we were on the mountain that's next to us. We were walking up it, we got to the top, and I thought it was a good idea to try to jump off the top bit of it. I lost traction because I was running and fell down the mountain and hit a wooden post with my head.
From what I've been told, I was quite dangerous as a child. And this was before my my diagnosis of Asperger's syndrome. And a lot of health professionals thought I was just plain old hyperactive, which they were very wrong about. It took over 5 years to diagnose that. But the street where my grandmother used to live, there was a park at the end of the street. And it was the birthday party of a child in the street. So it was one of my grandmother's, either one of my grandmother's neighbours, or it was a family member, because I did have some other family living in the same street. But as part of the kids' birthday party, they took us down to the park where, we'd, spend a good hour outdoors, just playing and working off the energy. In the corner of the park, there's a slide which I think is probably at least 15 foot tall. If you think about it, yeah. So I climbed to the.
Uh-oh. I can see where this is going.
Yeah, I climbed to the top, just looked over the side, and threw myself off the top backwards. I apparently traumatized the two adults who were watching over us, and yeah, and that wasn't the first time I did it either. In my other grandmother's house, I climbed the stairs and threw myself off the stairs and bust my bottom lip open, so my bottom lip was gushing blood, and my poor grandmother was like, "Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit!" So yeah, I was apparently quite dangerous as a child, but I did calm down a little bit, and one of the fonder memories I remember is my grandfather used to own an allotment, and I wanted, to help him down the allotment as much as I could, because we used to grow his own vegetables, and we'd pick peas, for dinner, and half of them didn't even make it into the pot because I'd be eating them. But at the back of the allotment, he had a row of sticks, which is what kidney beans used to grow on.
Bamboo sticks.
Yes, and so when we were watering them, if it was a particularly sunny day, we'd be seeing rainbows amongst the sticks.
Oh, mentioning rainbows. That's right. If any of you living near to where we were, where we are, right? There was you could actually see a portrait nestled right in our own hometown. It's literally. You could have. You may well have just dug in the same place where it was starting to shine, right? Try and find that pot of gold if you believe in that kind of stuff.
Luca wasn't in town, was he?
Yeah, that was his own transportation.
I once introduced myself to a stranger and convinced them that I was the mouse from the C.S. Lewis books. And convinced them. They were convinced that I was indeed Reapercheap, the mouse.
Why?
It took them meeting my parents and then having a conversation before my parents were like, no, none of this is factual. He's not a mouse. That's not true. Somewhat unruly childhood.
Oh my god, we are a complete bunch of weirdos, aren't we?
Hooray!
And that's why we're all gathered together in this little madhouse, and that's why we're all talking.
Yes.
But is that so wrong?
No, probably not.
I do remember something that happened to our older brother, well, my older brother. We were on holiday, and one of my cousins, who was a bit of a twat, I shall say, slammed my brother's fingers in a pool table and broke his fingers because he didn't like losing a game of pool that they weren't even playing.
Okay.
Ow.
None of this makes sense.
And then tried to smack him in the back of the head with the snooker cue.
And just while it's on my mind, I didn't have that many friends growing up, so my best friend was the family dog, a German Shepherd.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nope. So most of my younger days were spent playing with this, well, quite frankly, gorgeous dog who she'd had a bad start in life. You know, she'd been mistreated, something horrible, and the way she recovered because of my family was an absolute miracle. But yeah, she was my best friend growing up, and my mother recalls this one time where. My mother likes to do a bit of gardening. She took quite a long break from it, you know, when I was growing up. But when I was younger, she had quite the garden, both at the front and back of the house. And she came out one day to find that myself and the dog had basically dug up the entire garden because it appeared that I was convinced that my mother was growing potatoes. So I basically dug up my mother's entire garden looking for potatoes, of which there were none.
Somewhat of a potato famine, one might say.
1 potato, 2 potato, 3 potato, 4.
Floor.
Yes, quite possibly. And I just remember our dog we did buy a kennel for her, but she didn't get kennels. She never went into it. She always slept on top of it. Yeah.
Wow, Greyfriars Bobby, anybody? These childhood memories went from really funny to very depressing very quickly. Appreciate you sharing it with us, Ptolemy.
Thanks.
I got kicked in the head by one of our horses.
Ow.
That doesn't surprise me, Chad.
It's amazing with all these incredible head injuries that you've sustained that nothing notices at all. I mean, it's almost like you slipped that under the radar.
Fox, you've been with me even when I was having head injuries, and you've known me long after that.
And now you're crazy. You're more crazier than Crash Bandicoot. Yeah.
So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And now I find myself liking darkness more than I love liking the light.
Uh-huh.
Basically. Is it? So yeah, that's an yeah. So yeah, I am literally one with darkness because my head thinks in all sorts of weird directions.
Well, the only reason I got kicked in the head by the horse is because we were sorting him out, me, my uncle, my brothers, and my dad, and they were in a stall. So my brother and his friend decide to stick the torches up underneath their jaw and go. Blah, 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 blah. The horse freaks out, and I felt what felt like somebody brushing air past my ear. I realised then that the only thing in the stable with me was the horse that didn't like me, so I crawled on my hands and feet to get to the
Hold on your hands and feet.
on my not on my hands and knees because that's dangerous in a stall. You can cut your knees. So like a monkey does. And then as I got to by the door, something steps on me, which turns out to have been my dad chasing the boys. I turn around to go back in because I thought then maybe it was safe to go back in. And as I went to go back in, the horse had turned around and booted me in the Swede.
You know those are they sandhawks from Star Wars? In the original ones, where they stood on the side of the cliff and they go. That's what Charmed reminds me of.
Well, you look like a silverback gorilla, so just following in the footsteps.
If you're going to go with a Star Wars reference, sand people or...
You say Jabba the Hutt, I'm going to go over your house and poke you in the eye with a sharp, sturdy stick.
Wiki, Star Walker.
Now, you're more Jabba the Butt.
I'm genuinely surprised she hasn't smacked you half the time, Fox.
Is that a good place to wrap up?
Yep. Yeah. Thank you for watching this podcast. Would anyone like to say bye? Anything before we wrap up?
Well, I'll do our usual outro just so as people know where to find us.
Yep.
So we're having a couple of problems with our RSS feed at the moment, so we're going to be on and off Spotify and iTunes over the next month or two until we get it sorted out. Rest assured, it is being sorted out. Until then, you can catch us on Patreon and you can catch us on Twitter, Facebook, and also YouTube. Once it's sorted out, you will be able to find us on Spotify and iTunes, and for the next 30 days, you'll still be able to find us on Spotify and Patreon, but this episode won't be on there, so again, a bit pointless me saying that. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, thank you very much for subscribing if you've subscribed, and we've also, well, by the time this airs, we will have put our first special episode out. It was all of us, well, most of us playing Cards Against Humanity in a rather, we'll say, colourful game.
Mm-hmm.
To put a good reference in, what you expect.
Yeah.
What you expected, yeah.
Yeah, basically, if you want to see that, I'm afraid you're going to have to subscribe. It's only $1 a month, which works out about 80 pence. And you can go and see that then. So, yeah, thank you very much. And over to everyone else to say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care now. I'm going back into the darkness where I belong.
I was a dangerous child.